How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Welcome back to TheBlueShifting. I'm smacking my microphone, so you know you're on the right channel, obviously. Welcome back to Muv-Luv Monday. I apologize. I've had some pretty spotty. I went on vacation, but then my return was spotty because I got this kind of like respiratory infection. I'm feeling a lot better, so I'm hoping I'll be 100% by the time next Friday comes around, because that's the one where I have to do a lot of different voices. But for now, I should be fine for doing Muv-Luv and Enigma, and I should be doing my live stream on Wednesday, so hopefully you'll come around for that. They're continuing Persona 5 Royal, in case you have been missing the memo somehow. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Today we're starting Resurrection. It's the final thing inside Photonmelodies before we're done. And then, wouldn't you know it, Muv-Luv is the gift that keeps on giving, because we have the day after. I've got all of those, like all 5 of the titles that are in that series. I'm guessing that they're shorter. They're just broken up into 5 different releases. And then they've already announced that by like this winter, they're planning to release Total Eclipse, the visual novel translation. So heck yes. That one I've had a tiny bit of spoiling because I love the first 2 episodes of the anime. But I got bored with the anime, so I didn't actually watch much of it. So thankfully, I'll be going to that one relatively blind as well. So yeah, there's a lot of good exciting stuff coming around, but we're going to jump into Resurrection. So I'm going to read this little preamble here. See, hopefully it's not too spoilery, but I'm sure anything that's in here we'll find out in this episode anyway. So, Resurrection from Muv-Luv Alternative Chronicles 03-2012. 1 month prior to the events of Muv-Luv Alternative, a cybernetic soldier named Silvio Orlandi arrives at Yokohama base to work security detail at the upcoming Alternative Program Summit. Though in truth, he's an undercover agent sent by the European Union for the express purpose of gathering classified intel about Alternative 4, as well as any other concerning projects, enigmatic Professor Kyozuki, is it? I want to say Kazuki now, but that's not right. Kazuki? Is that Kazuki? I don't know. Kyozuki might have in the works. Upon arrival, however, he quickly discovers that he won't be a simple recon mission, as the professor's personal detachment, the Valkyrie Squadron, seem perpetually poised to distract him at every turn, and yet their playful attitudes and suggestive antics seem to indicate that they have no real intention for obscuring his mission. But could it truly be just a coincidence, or there's more to the situation than meets the eye? Interesting. Well, we'll have to find out, but hey, we're gonna be hanging out with Valkyrie Squad again. Like, we need it. I need my Valkyrie time. We didn't get enough of them in Altered Fable, that's the truth. So let's jump right in. As cool as it looks, we're doing the English. I like how, I've never noticed this, but now we've got the Typhoon is the English and the Takemakazuchi for the Japanese. Subtle. Subtle. Okay. Hey, this looks a lot like, the intro or the ending in, what was it called? It was the one in Italy, the really short story that we had in Photon Flowers. Rain Dancers, right? Some say the world may be hell itself. The human race hunted into extinction by invaders from beyond the stars. Eurasia, a smoldering ruin, hundreds of millions torn apart and devoured alive. What else could you call this world but hell? Some say that the last judgment has come upon us. That the invaders are but a divine trial, the pale rider incarnate sent here by the Lord. Do not resist, surrender to your fate. Dang, no, even if I were devout, I don't think I could accept that. Silvio. If this world is indeed hell, then we must all be mortal sinners. Maybe what is written in the book of the Apocalypse has come to pass, and hell has followed in the Beta's wake. In that case, the only logical conclusion would be that all those who died in Eurasia were sinners just as well. Oh, there's a lot of holes in that logic. It's probably the biggest thing I really don't like about religion in general. People tend to use religion as justification for bad things happening to people. The idea that, oh, if this happens, it's because you're a sinner. But the funny thing is that, at least in Christianity, I don't know enough about other religions, specifically that believe in heaven, hell kind of stuff. But in Christian belief, in Christian doctrine, Jesus Christ taught in the New Testament, he specifically berated people for that type of thinking. There's a story where there's a crippled person who's by a fountain that's clean water, and there's stories about people getting healed by it. And like his followers like point to the man and said, who sinned, him or his parents? Because the tradition back then was that if you were like disabled or crippled, like if you were crippled by an accident, you must have been a sinner because you were deemed to suffer by God. If you were born with a child with like mental or physical disablements, then that must mean that the parents had sinned and thus pushed it on the child. And like the whole teaching there is just like, no one sinned in this case. And he goes and heals the person, and he like talks about how like, and it, like the whole message of that story is that like physical ailments are never ever they're never supposed to be synonymous with sin or sinners. So like this attitude is a very unhealthy, disgusting one. It's something that people use to justify not being charitable and compassionate people. This belief or understanding that like people who are starving in third world countries they're non-believers, thus the Lord's abandoned them. You know, it just so happens the history's worked out for a lot of Christian nations that end up on top of the world. Like it wouldn't have taken many changes to completely reverse that. Heck, I mean, like in World War II, Germany got terrifyingly close to establishing a long-standing rule, and in their system, religion was not even supposed to be a thing. Like it was something that was discouraged and pushed aside, seen as dangerous, and as and didn't relinquish control that the government and the leaders wanted to maintain. We're very lucky that we live in a world where there are nations that do try and, at least in spirit, promote the idea of self-actualization, freedom of speech. And sadly, that's not even the case I'd say probably a majority of people on the planet. Like, there's many governments that currently do not even, like, they openly show that they don't support true open speech or true open, like, freedom of religion or anything like that. Anyway, this long tirade, I'm sorry, but it's just this idea that this idea is a dangerous way to think, to assume that the reason why bad things happen are because of sinners and that only good people would be spared. That's a dangerous, elitist way of thinking that leads to classism, like severe classism. Because then you can justify your poor feelings or your misgivings about others who are different from you, because you can just assume that they just were given the short end of the stick, and thus fate's determined that you are right and they are wrong. It's very handy that rich and powerful and people who are in stable positions have the luxury of looking down their noses and just saying, well, obviously God's the reason why you are suffering. You know, if you just were better people, you'd be like me. Like, that's so stupid. Anyway, it's a pet peeve of mine, as you can probably tell. So, sorry for the little bit of the tirade right at the beginning, but this attitude can only lead to danger. And maybe some actually were, but as the Bible teaches us, the son is not to bear the guilt of his father. Bam! I guarantee, I'm like 90% sure that quote's from the story I told. How could it be just then for the newborn to be condemned to hell through no fault of their own? I agree. Not to mention the other species destroyed by the beta, the floral and fauna, incapable of even speech. Could we rightly call them sinners? Ridiculous. Casting every living being on the planet as beyond redemption is simply an attempt to rationalize our impending destruction, a natural response by those who have allowed themselves to be overcome by despair. Though I'm probably the last man on earth with any right to mock them, for in a way, this world really is hell to me. Because I'm guilty of mortal sin, murder. In this day and age, I deserve to be punished. That's very interesting. With our very survival at stake, the human race continues to wage total war against the beta, or bogged down in a battle of attrition, one that has no end in sight. But that's not my battle. I only stand against the beta when circumstances force my hand. As an agent of the 6th Office of the EU Intelligence Corps, it's my task isn't to fight the battlefield, but to spy on my fellow men. That would really suck. Anyone who might threaten mankind's unity against the beta, be it an organization or individuals, is a possible target. It's my duty to stop those who put those professional gains above the interests of the human race as a whole, no matter the cost. I can kind of get behind the mission statement, but the problem is who's the one directing it, because they could easily be doing that exact same thing under the guise of trying to unify. I mean, like, a lot of things can be justified if you just want to make sure everyone's towing the line and staying together and not deviating or following their own ideas. I can try to justify my actions by saying it's my job, that I'm only following orders, but the fact is, I hurt people. I've strayed far from the Lord's path.
相変わらずだな、シルビオ。信心深いこった。
Okay. I need to check that because that was way loud. Yeah, let's tone down that because that couldn't have been like in balance with the music. Yeah, well, I'll see. If you're here just to make fun of me, don't bother, Renzo. I'm not in the mood today.
茶化すバカ言え、親切さ。俺は可愛い弟分に助言してやってるんだぜ。
Okay. Please, you're so full of it.
悲しいね。俺にしがみついて離れなかった。あの素直で可愛い坊やはどこ行っちまったんだ
there he goes again.
繊細孤児センターじゃ、泣き虫のお前をずっと悪ガキどもから守ってやったよな。
Yo, I like this guy. He's just great, he said sarcastically.
何の因果か、ここで再会した時も泣いて喜んでたじゃねえかよ。その俺の言葉を疑うのか
Laying it on a little thick, aren't you? When are you going to realize I'm not a kid anymore?
データを使わすようなお偉いさん相手に祈ろうが懺悔しようが無駄だってことをお前が理解するまでさ。
Not this again, Renzo. How many times am I going to have to tell you?
はいはい、わかってるって。我救わざる斧が運命を嘆くにあらず、ただ祈るは今宵死せる者たちのため。だったよな。
Another interesting saying I've heard is that in times of true, like, pain, of crisis, there are two types of people when it comes to, like, faith. There are those who are driven away because how could a god support or allow such terrible things to happen? And then there are those who become much more zealous, believing that only their faith is there to withstand the pure destruction that could come. And it's interesting because this is the first time I think we've seen a religious, like, position taken up by a character that we get to follow. I'm really curious to see how they play out with this and what the writer does, but I can absolutely trust the writers to do a good job because goodness knows they've done everything else right. Exactly. Can't do that for my own soul though. Far too late for that. People are going to die in the next operation, friend and foe alike. Am I not allowed to pray for them?
別にいけなかねえさ。こんなご時世に人間とドンパチだ。まして今回の相手はお前のご同門だしな。
Co-religionists. Co-religionists? He must mean the allegiance sect. To Renzo, all faiths are the same.
だが、抱え込みすぎるのは良くない。しまいにここをやられちまうぞ。
I don't know. Yes, I know. But it's exactly because of these times we live in that one needs to believe. My faith is far from pure, almost frustratingly so. Catholicism is full of compromises. We accept the theory of evolution and take science and physics for granted. No, the men and women we're targeting this time are true zealots. Their faith is different, deep, and genuine, untainted by modernity or this war. In all honesty, I'd consider mine to be more of a habit. I'm a believer because that's what I've always been. It's been pretty much a part of my heritage. Stay with me, I grew up religious, so it almost feels like an instinct, like it's natural. This is what I've always known, what I've always done. I totally can understand. No, not quite. It's our heritage. This faith is all I have to remind me of my family. I only lived in the town I was born in for a few years. By the time I had use of reason, it was already a refugee. Mom, Dad, and I did nothing but march further south with each passing day. We were chased away from northern Italy by the advancing beta hordes. So the only real memories of my family I have are from church. Because as a child, the church was the only place where I could enjoy some semblance of a normal family life. Wherever we went, churches would offer aid to the refugees. My family used to sit around the table with the meager rations we were given. There I would watch my deeply religious parents pray. And in time, those moments grew into fond memories. I think this is one of the best justifications I can see for people who practice religion, because regardless of what you think of it, I do think it can build a good solid foundation of like family, trust, and like a like dogmatic idea of like morals and something, a greater purpose to your life than just living it. And even if that doesn't become a lifelong faith for you, I think it does build up a seed foundation of this idea of hope. And I'm also not trying to say that people who grow up without religion don't have hope. I think you can instill hope in many different ways, but I think it's a good vessel, a good way of building a tradition that can be very beneficial. Not always, and it needs to be done, within reason. And again, you can't use it to justify terrible things or terrible like ideas or as means of excusing like poor choices or evil choices. But there is good in it. There's a lot of people that have been motivated to be very good and to do really good things because of a religious belief. And thus I can't just say, oh, they're all bad. Of course they're not. There's a lot of good in religion. Man, we're getting really deep on this one, huh? After walking for several weeks, we made it to the southern tip of the Italian peninsula. Finally, we could dream again. Except that for my family, their dream would soon twist into a nightmare. Countless refugees from all over Europe flocked there, in numbers far beyond what the United Nations and European Union could safely evacuate. The EU forces tried everything they could, but the front line had to be moved further back again and again. With the beta only a few dozen kilometers away, the people in charge prioritized saving the children. I kind of thought that might happen. A cruel decision, but what else could they have done? And so, the children were dragged kicking and screaming into the evacuation boats, reaching out in vain for their parents, who saw them off in tears. They are all the memories I'll have of my family. God, what a terrible thing to have to go through. But I guarantee you in a second, if I had to choose, my kids would be gone. I'd be like, I hate this, but just try and live. Like, if I can do anything, let me give you an opportunity. That would be more than enough for me if I had to make that choice. I would never want to make that choice, but I would make it in a heartbeat. My parents are the reason I'm a believer in the first place. It's quite possible my faith today is just the means of keeping their memory alive. But shouldn't you feel the same, Renzo? You were torn away with your family on that day too. We were together, tears streaming down our faces as we watched in horror as the beta destroyed the town where our parents had stayed behind. After witnessing so much death, I thought you would cling to faith as well. God has given life to every living being. If I am to take it away, I want to pray for their souls first.
倫理観だか人道主義だか知らんが、大概にしとけよ。人はいつか死ぬ。要は早いか遅いかの問題で、その原因の違いに大した意味なんてない。
Maybe in the grand scheme of things, but there is something beautiful about people who choose to die in a way that's meaningful. Isn't that what Asumi said way back when? It's like, make your death count, make it matter. Like, there is beauty in that. It's never that the death is beautiful, but that the sacrifice that it represents can mean something so good. Like their parents. Their parents sacrificed their lives to save them. Like, that's not meaningless at all. Grand scheme of things, yeah, of course. Like, we're all just motes of dust on a speck in the middle of a big void that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't care whether or not we make it through the next, day or not. But the people around us care, and those who are left behind care. So it's not like it's completely meaningless. It's just meaningless to the grand universe, but I don't know. Even one person has a value that I would consider incalculable. Oh, I tried to say a word that didn't exist. What's your point?
ああ、ベータ人間病気。何が原因で死のうが死は死だ。すべて神のおぼし飯ってやつさ。
So he's kind of a nihilist. He's a nihilist at heart. Maybe a religious one, but it doesn't sound like. I think he's just trying to talk to someone who's religious. Lay off the sarcasm. You're simply repeating what the refugees say, on purpose even. That's a twisted interpretation of his word, and I don't agree with it. Don't you dare blame the Lord for the beta.
お前さんの信仰にケチつける気はないが、難民の教義もなかなか捨てたもんじゃないぞ。
Renzo, you can't possibly be serious.
まあ聞けよ。宇宙のすべてが神によって作られたものだってんなら、当然ベータもそうだ。じゃなきゃ聖書と矛盾する。
He's got a point. You have to either accept that a god created the beta and humanity, or there's another god out there that he's duking it out with, and thus he didn't quite tell us the truth in his scripture. So it's yeah, I could definitely see, dang, again, the writers really kind of thought this through.
で、そいつらがこのだだっ広い宇宙の中から、よりによって地球に攻めてきたってわけだ。
And we know that in alternate timelines, either the beta just don't exist or they didn't find Earth in the same way.
この天文学的確率を神の意志と言わずになんて言うんだ？悪ふざけか何かか？
I told you, I'm not in the mood for this today. We Catholics don't interpret the book of Genesis literally. That's something only fundamentalists do. Then again, I am a spy, not a priest. I'm not qualified to debate about Catholic dogma with him.
まあそう怒るな。難民の競技だからってバカにしてるから足をすくわれる。何事も舐めてかかるなってこった。
So you're saying you buy into their conspiracy theories?
陰謀論？ああ、国連はベータの真相を隠しているとかいう類の？
Gotta admit, the UN wishes they could be able to create something as effective as the beta. Take your pick. There's probably 1,000 of those crackpot theories out there by now. For example, it's settled science that there are some biological similarities between humans and the beta. Theologians from all denominations spared no expense debating what conclusions should be drawn from that proven fact. The Allegiance sect claims the resemblance proves that the beta are God's messengers. Christian fundamentalists, on the other hand, say it's evidence in favor of creationism. Bull crap, all of it. The similarities are pure coincidence, or maybe even an instance of convergent evolution. But that's not what actually matters. The problem is that this information trickles down from the refugees and sparks all kinds of wild conspiracy theories to run rampant. It's the first sign of a crisis that must be averted. Interesting. Rampant conspiracy theories is something that I'm seeing a lot in my culture right now. You know, being in America, it's a big, big problem. And the problem is it's running rampant. And he's saying it's the symptom of future problems. And I probably agree. I'm kind of terrified of the next, decade or two. I mean, everyone always fears for the future, but I'm really getting concerned. I hope it'll be okay, but I don't know. I also think it's interesting that, the similarities for the beta, as far as I'm aware, is... Now, granted, this is also spoilers for, actual Alternative, but if you're watching this and you haven't seen Alternative, what are you doing here? Make sure you leave, in the next 10 seconds. I hate telling you to goodbye. If you want to watch it and catch up with stuff, I got playlists for you. But anyway, we learned that there are beings that created the beta. The beta are built of carbon-based life, but the thing is that the people who created the beta are silicon-based life, which works with, ammonia, I believe, rather than water. And so, they're biologically very different and incompatible. They created the beta to be able to harvest on worlds that would be incompatible with their species and their fauna. But they genetically developed the beta based off very simplistic life that they found, because they theorized that carbon-based life would never be compatible with intelligent life, which is why the beta just go out and scour the universe. They're just collecting resources. And the beta came here, and they don't see humanity as intelligent. They just think that they're, local flora and fauna that's a little more tenacious than most planets they've come across. And so, the idea that the beta looks similar to humanity, I think, again, it's just they're effectively biological machines. They were developed like we developed machines to harvest, resources, to dig holes, to do all that. They just did it through a biological process that they invented that was carbon-based to go into various places. They could go to Mars and the moon. Obviously they don't require a lot of the same functionalities we do, but they used carbon-based because it was something that was an engine they could understand and they could manipulate. So the similarities might simply be because they were developed on a similar engine that works with humanity. So the convergent evolutionary traits is actually probably more likely, although it's not evolutionary purely. It's genetically modified. But those teeth, man. Some will inevitably accept these tidbits of information as the whole truth. That truth will then spread like wildfire. Left unchecked, as the baseless speculation has the potential to undermine the unity of mankind. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Preserving our union is the UN's highest priority, and the reason why it's exerted control over the flow of information since the war began. Well, what's your answer? Do you believe in them or not?
まあ、難民が標準主義へ傾倒するのは ある種のストックホルム症候群。あるいは集団ヒステリーの類だろうな。
I doubt it's that simple.
自らの過酷で理不尽な状況や差し迫った非業の死に幾ばくかの正当性や意味を持たせたいっていう願望。
I mean, motivation-wise, you might not be far off.
さもなきゃ自分がひどい目見るならみんな平等に同じ目に遭うべきっていう呪詛じゃねえのか。
Long story short, you don't believe the theories?
まあな。だが蛇が人間の言葉を喋ったり魚の腹に住んでたって話より説得力はあると思うぜ。
I'll give you that. You still don't get it, Renzo. In times like this, keeping faith is more important than ever. Not everyone can be as strong as you are. Religion is all people like me have. Enough with this passive-aggressive nonsense. If you have something to say, out with it.
さすが相棒。すっかりお見通しってわけか。
Man, the music's really good. I take you have complaints about my plan?
ああ、大いに。
Figures. Renzo's had that look on his face since the briefing. So what's your problem? The target? Because I don't see anything wrong with going after the unsanctioned beta research facility operating under the guise of a refugee support center. In fact, the place in question is funded by allegiance and other fundamentalist groups. It's a breeding ground for some of those conspiracies that involve the UN.
ついでに、当のアフリカ連合はそれを知りながら黙認、裏取引していると。
That's not something we need to concern ourselves with. Our mission is to get rid of anything threatening the unity of mankind, which is exactly what we'll be doing.
人類違うな。未承認のベータ研究施設はアメリカやソ連にもある。なぜ問題にならない、ベータ研究を国連が統括管理しているのは、それを独占したい国々の政治的思惑だからだ。
I don't think it's the UN wants it. It's that the UN is being controlled by people who have the bigger budgets, and thus the bigger budget people make themselves exceptions. It's something America has been doing for about 50 plus years now. I don't think you're wrong, but that has nothing to do with our target this time. I made the decision based on how dangerous the research is and how inhuman their methods are.
お得意の宗教的倫理観か。だが、それが人類の結束を揺るがす可能性があるとしたら
What are you trying to say?
今回お前があの施設を攻撃対象のレイヤー1に格上げしたのは、異性士官合成生物、ベータブリッドの研究をやっているからだ。
The beta birds. Brids. Oh, beta hybrids? Oh, that sounds horrifying. Yes, and I'm confident it was the right decision. Not just experimenting on animals there. They're using Eurasian refugees, too. That's pretty bad. Yep, let's go in. Let's go in. Get the guns and the flamethrowers. We gotta stop whatever that is. You know how these things work. Allegiance and the other right-wing fundamentalist groups use their experiments to support their claims, while the backer countries continue giving funding because they see potential military applications. It's insane.
それはどうかな。もし仮に連中の研究がベータに対する唯一の対抗策になるとしたら、
The ends don't justify the means. If that's what we'd have to do, if in order to defeat monsters we have to become them, is it really worth it? Don't be ridiculous.
毒をもって毒を制す。ベータに対抗できる生体兵器や、奴らにしか作用しないウイルスを連中が作る可能性。それがゼロだってお前に言い切れるのか？
Virus idea might not be a bad one. Renzo, are you serious?
お前こそいい加減目を覚ませ！滅亡の瀬戸際に倫理や信仰が何の役に立つ？人間殺しの罪悪感を神の許してやれでごまかすのがせいぜいだろう。
Get out of front in here.
のんきに手段を選んでる場合か。俺は地球からベータどもを一掃できるなら、なんであろうが大歓迎だ。
Well, I mean, we could have just killed the planet a long time ago. Like, if that's all we cared about, we could just finish this whole thing. Detonate enough of the nukes from the Cold War, we could just crack the planet in half. There, nobody wins, right? Is that worth it then? Is that what you want, Renzo? You're out of your mind. Systematic human rights violations like that would make us no better than them.
ほう。じゃあ俺たちは違うってのか。神に与えられた他人の命を奪うのは非人道的じゃないって？
Well...
思い出せよ、相棒！俺らがこんな汚れ仕事に手を染めてるのは一体何のためだ？おふくろや親父たちの仇を討ってイタリアを 俺だ
Oh, sorry, I interrupted him. Exactly, but genetically modifying people, fusing them with the beta is an atrocity. How could we live with ourselves if we don't put an end to it? Fight fire with fire? What if the beta breeds are the beta's destructive power, end up slaughtering mankind? If we fail, we're the ones who will have to answer to God.
悪いが俺は無神論でな。信仰は地獄に捨ててきたよ。
Well, what if we do that anyway? God's not a part of the picture. Like, does that mean we should still shoot ourselves in the head just because we might be able to survive it and it might take the beta next to us with us? Renzo.
いいか。倫理も信仰もアフリカ連合の権利も俺には関係ねえ。ベータブリッドだろうが人体実験だろうがどうだっていいんだよ。
Are we sure he's not going to be able to compromise us? Cut the crap. If you're willing to throw away humanity just like that, then what's the difference between us and the beta?
知るか！神様にでも聞いてみろよ！だがな、これだけは覚えておけ。この作戦、ヨーロッパ連合の歴史と国連の公平性に拭いがたい汚点を残すぞ。
What are you going on about now?
経済と産業を握る南半球の国々が、この件を引き金に反発したらどうする？最悪アメリカと結託して、国連の主要機能を掌握なんて事態になってみろ。
You mean Altered Fable?
そうだ。もしそれが本採用なんて事態になれば、イタリアは、いや、ユーラシアは、二度と人が住めない土地になるかもしれないんだぞ。
I wonder if this is actually what what he's implying. What if it actually is happening? Like, what if this is the beginning of the domino that leads to such strong pressure to switch to Alternative 5 that Alternative 4 starts becoming sabotaged? Heck, it implies that we're going to be part of that sabotage. I know that. And I won't let that happen, no matter what.
だといいがな。
Renzo, I hope you realize that this ends justify the means. Then it was right for us to abandon our families back when Italy fell. Whoo, boy.
こちらデルト1、緊急員とデータの確保は失敗。繰り返す、緊急員とデータの確保は失敗。どうやら一足遅かった。敵はこちらの動きを直前に察知した模様。
That's not great.
コマンドポスト了解。サブプラン F に移行し、施設の爆破を遂行せよ。ダメだ。地下施設内は逃げ際に奴らが放った小型世界指令てる。施設の破壊は空爆を要請しろ。
I kind of want to see what they ended up making. Oh no, they just have beta there.
施設が難民キャンプに隣接しているため空爆はできない。デルタチームは地球回収座標を目指せ。
Oh, that's not a little bit. They've got quite a few.
デルトン、了解。コマンドポストよりグーフォ、フェニーチェ各小隊に次ぐ。所定座標に移動し、回収ポイントを確保。デルタチームの脱出を支援せよ。
Did they say this is like in Africa? Like Africa was relatively untouched. Did they literally bring beta to a place that's relatively secure? Like really? Fennis 1, Roger. Or Fennec. Ooh, what's he flying? Oh, I'm not sure I know what these models are. They're not the Typhoons. Huh. What came before the Typhoon? Cyclones? Are these Cyclone models, maybe? The operation's a bust. We're securing Delta Team's extraction point. Listen, Renzo, about earlier. Copy that. He's right, we're soldiers. The mission's all that matters. They can't stop thinking. How did they know we were coming on such short notice? We'll approach from the facility flying NOE, Nape of the Earth, which is close to the ground. Thankfully, we're in the rear. No need to worry about laser irradiation. Blah, blah, blah.
おいおい、敵の防空システムはどうなってる？デルタチームはコントロールの破壊を。
We'll know once we're in midair. Worst case scenario, we'll have to dodge a ton of missiles.
お前何言って。
Oh, fetch. Ugh.
おいおい、なんだ。デルタチームは失敗したんじゃなかったのか？何？
Oh no, that's the laser alarm.
コマンドポストより作戦行動中の全ユニットに次ぐ。地下停滞庫の核兵器が時限式爆薬で破壊された模様。ベータ大型種サンプルの出現に備えよ。
I hate that alarm. You're kidding me. There are larger strains in there too? So that's how it is. The enemy must have released the small strains to keep us busy while the larger ones came out of the stasis.
これがなりふり構わねえやつの強さだ、シルビオ。
Have you completely lost your mind? Look how far these other effers are going. They just, so they could just run away? And you think we should follow their example?
ああ、そうだ。生き残るやつが持つしたたかさだよ。
Oh, they're not gonna get away with it. Not on my watch. Let's go. Interesting. Here's the thing that really boggles my mind. Remember how we talked about how like this would leave a black stain on the UN? How are they going to justify this for the other people? They're like, yeah, you launched an attack on like allied soil. Like, what gives? They'd be like, there's literal beta here. They literally came out of the ground and started killing everybody. Well, you just did it because they attacked because you did. No, they attacked us because they were let out of stasis on purpose by the people that are here. You should be grateful we did this before it happened without anyone here to intercept them. Good grief. How many of these beta DBs keep in there? Our plan was to hit them hard and fast with the elite strike team, but it looks like our initial intel on the beta numbers were way off. Dang it. How'd this happen? Oh boy. Hello! Hello!
キリがねえ。こうも数が多くちゃ回収座標の確保どころか俺たちまでやばいぜ。
Huh? Ignoring us again. The way they're behaving makes no sense. It's like they don't even see us. Wait, that's it. Renzo, look at the map. Maybe they...
なるほどな。ベータどもは一目散に北を目指してやがるのか。
Is that the nearest hive? Crap. You don't think they're trying to cross the Alboran Sea to get to the Lionel hive?
ずっと捕まってたんだ。お家が恋しいんだろうよ。とにかく下手に戦うよりこのままやり過ごそう。離脱は奴らが通過した後で十分だ。
Yeah, that's the thing, because like beta that are disconnected will hone in on the nearest hive signal. It's not going to be so simple, Renzo. Look at the route they're taking. They're heading straight toward the refugee camp, and there's 3 cities along their projected path too.
バカ野郎！余計なこと考えるな。どの道俺らの頭数じゃ何もできやしねえ。
Use all your ammo still. Guess you're right. We'll secure the extraction point after we let them pass. But we should be able to do something in the meanwhile. Ooh, that's a cool shot. I've sinned enough for a lifetime already. I can't afford to sin any further.
何が罪だ。甘いなこと抜かしてるんじゃねえ。
Look, my plan failed. Not only could I not stop these inhuman experiments, but I'm also supposed to kick back and watch as the European refugees and the Algerian people are trampled down by the beta? It's just like before. No, the hell it is. I was powerless back then, but not anymore. Fennec 1 to command post. Contact the Algerian government. Have them defend the urban areas.
その要請には応えられない。我々の存在をアフリカ連合に明かすことになる。
Then use the diplomatic channels. Dang it! There's no other choice if it comes to this. Fennec 2, hold down the extraction point together with Gufo Squad.
おい待て。
That's an order. I'll stay back and do whatever I can.
シルビオ！
Crap. Oh, lovely bubbly. The more of them we kill, the more lives we can save. Oh yeah, keep dying, you. No, huh? Oh crap, get out of there. What are the Algerians doing? Command post, why is the Algerian army not in position?
すでにヨーロッパ連合外交ルートを通じ迎撃要請と避難勧告が通達されている。
Son of a gun, the Algerians don't plan to do anything at all. They're gonna let it happen and bury the whole thing after.
フェニーチェ1、直ちに回収座標の警備に復帰せよ。これ以上の単独行動は看過できない。繰り返す。
Government wouldn't sacrifice hundreds of thousands of people as for what? To protect their political standing?
これ がなりふり構わねえやつの強さだ、シルビオ。
Dang.
生き残るやつが持つしたたかさだよ。
I really understand his frustration. The heck with that. There has to be something I can do. It's also really loud. Hang on. There. Little less insane. Wait, is that the power plant? If I blow it up, it'd probably take out more than 80% of the beta. Enough to save the people of the coastal cities. But, oh, oh, that's bad. Did we fall over? That's bad. Get out of there. Crap. Oh, this is bad. They can rip right through the hole. And we can't have much ammo. Renzo, why are you here?
いつでも俺は前に立って弟分を守ってやるのが役目だからな。
Renzo, I'm...
時間がない。回収座標に向かえ。
Hey, that's the wrong way.
エネルギープラントの爆破か。お前にしちゃまともなプランだな。
What? How'd you know?
データリンクでモニターしてたのさ。沿岸部の被害を最小限に食い止めるには。
Interesting. Wait, then, what about the 40,000 European refugees?
遅かれ早かれ。難民はベータにやられる。
Oh. What's the choice, right? Like, this is like the choice that's presented in by the Grail in Fate Zero. Like, it's a very similar, it's an amalgamation of a very similar a very common philosophy question. You have two ships, each packed with refugees, with like one has 2,000, one has 1,000. You realize you don't have enough fuel for both ships to continue on, and everyone on board the one of the ships will die. Both ships are capacity. You can't take people from one to the other. So, like, what do you do if they both continue on? They both will run out of fuel, and they will both die. If one of them takes the fuel from the other, the one that takes it can survive. So what do you do? Which boat do you save? Well, it's like, if you're being pragmatic, you save the ship with 2,000 on it, and then it continues on. But then, like, the Grail takes it further. They're like, okay, so it makes sense. So you sacrifice 1,000 for 2,000, you know, their lives and their lives. Then it continues on. And it says, like, the journey's taking longer than expected, and they don't have enough food for all 2,000 people. Do you just let them all starve to death, or do you force like 500 people to get on lifeboats and just sacrifice themselves so the rest can survive for the rest of the journey? And then how do you select who the people in the lifeboats are going to be? It's like, these are horrific choices, but like, you have to make the choice. Make the choice. People have to do it, because if inaction makes everyone die, somebody has to take the fall. Somebody has to make that decision and pull that trigger, and somebody has to take responsibility for it and live with that decision. And that's the critical part. And I think that's essentially what a real leader needs to be able to do. A real leader should be compassionate, should be a exemplary person. They should take responsibility for all the things that go wrong, including things they had no control over, and they have to be able to live with the decisions that they make and be able to make them without like delay and without regret, or at least enough regret to make them immobile and incapable of making decisions.
だったら沿岸部の数十万人を確実に救うべきだ。
Wait a second. We're talking about 40,000 people here. 40,000 innocent people are going to die.
分かってるさ。だからお前は回収座標に戻って指揮を取れ。この手の仕事は俺が適任だ。
No, stop, Renzo.
悪いな。俺は俺の戦いなんだよ、兄弟。
Renzo, don't do it! Renzo!
主よ、生臭な我を許したまえ。
He's praying. Stop!
吹っ飛びやがれ、火星人ども！誘爆だと！まさか地下にも隠したんか！
Oh no. Renzo! On that day, I ceased to exist. Wow. This is the intro we always see, but it's probably going to be the end of the episode today. But fetch, man, what a crazy introduction to this. Ooh, I'm really invested in this story now. Wow. Sucks though. I kind of knew that was probably going to be what happened, but holy crap. So, like, obviously we've seen this before, so I'm just gonna go ahead and talk over it. But like, so we know he's somehow going to start becoming involved in Yokohama base, but like it's really interesting that they went to the trouble of like establishing like his faith and like some of the paradoxes of trying to be a believer in this time and like during the Beta's invasion, to really kind of see the dynamic between the two brothers in just enough of a way to have so much meaning be behind that sacrifice. The revelation that his brother still said a prayer when he knew he was probably gonna die, and like the idea that like what choice do you make like when all you're presented are terrible choices? Like how do you make the choice when like only ones you have are awful? Yeah. Oh, that's really, isn't that the essentials of what like Muv-Luv is? It's like when all your choices are terrible, what choices do you make? And like what meaning is there in that? And like how do you use that as a litmus test to determine what you need to do with yourself and how do you do what you need to do? And there's also the great music. Oh man. Okay, so here's the stuff that's for this series specifically. Dang. Or maybe at least that one scene. Ooh. Alternative, baby. Alternative is so good. If there was a series I wish I could wipe my brain of and like go through all again, brand new again, it would be Muv-Luv. Oh my gosh, it'd be so good. All right, but I think this is where we're going to stop for today. I know it sucks, but like this really is a good place for us to end, and we're gonna have to see what happens next and what happened. I guess like the real consequences of what happened that day. Like, is he gonna wake up like on the remnants of that field, or are we gonna be doing a time skip here? I don't even know. We're gonna have to find out. But thank you so much for being a part of this episode today. Thank you for joining me. My throat's getting a little like I'm still not 100%. Like it still like drags me down a bit. But the fact that I was able to talk so much and feel relatively okay makes me confident this week I should be fine with all my content. So thank you guys. I look forward to sharing it with you, and I'm thankful to the patrons. You guys are awesome. Being able to step and giving me something like personal in order to help continue to fuel this hobby and this desire to make things better and improve them on the channel. I really appreciate that, and I hope that you guys continue to feel like supporting me is a good thing. I don't ever want to make people feel like they have to, though. If you ever support me even a little bit, you get access to the tiny little bit. I don't want any content ever to be really locked. The only thing that people really get access to is a bit more behind the scenes content, specifically the patron cast, but I'm going to be throwing occasional stuff in there as we go. Especially like when I plan to do things like visiting conventions and going to like Japan eventually, and like these other things, like I'm sure that they're going to be able to get a lot more content, a lot more like stuff that, because like I'll do summaries and like maybe little short videos and compilations of stuff, but like if you're a patron, like you can look forward to everything, or at least like a lot more of it, just because that's the difference. It's like, I don't want to let anything being locked away, but if anyone's going to become that invested in the channel, then like you're going to be able to see the stuff that maybe just isn't as compactable and like as refined, I guess you could call it. Yeah, if there's anything, unrefined is the best way to describe my patron cast. But there's a lot of other future projects I hope to have, and I look forward to sharing them with all of you. Thank you so much. If you just want to be able to like be a part of the channel and be able to chat with me occasionally, there's a great link to the Discord. You just go in there and post stuff. I usually respond. I can answer questions directly usually, and if I don't answer them right away, you can usually find out something later on. Again, I got my live streams on Wednesday nights. Usually an alert will go up if you're curious about those, and I usually share a link on the Discord as well. But then, of course, Mondays, Muv-Luv. Wednesdays, we've got Ethereal Enigma, and then Fridays, we're doing Mamiya, which is freaking crazy. I'm really excited to see how that one continues on. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here, and until the next video watching me, I'll see you next. I'll see you there.